Thanks, Lily. I'm Kalen Acquisto. I'm from Denver, Colorado, moved away for 10 years, returned, and have this true passion for community building and documenting Denver. So that being said, I lead the Commons on Champa in Denver, supporting entrepreneurs, but then I'm also an entrepreneur and run my own photography business, where I'm able to shoot weddings and elopements. I also support small business owners, mostly female business owners who need lifestyle shoots to get their business off the ground. And so all of those things have taken a drastic pivot over the last month that we can talk about in a bit.
Excellent. Excellent. Kalen, thank you for introducing yourself. And I've got Sally. Sally, would you mind introducing yourself and telling me a little bit about your business?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Sally Ogilby, and I am the founder of Block 21 Fitness, which is a cardio dance workout. Our whole goal is sort of to make your workout feel like you're out with friends on a Friday night. So we have a studio in Capitol Hill right here in Denver. And we opened the studio in August of 2019. So we haven't even been open a year. But yeah, it's the whole, our business is an experience. You come, we have the full nightclub lights, and part of what we offer is that environment. So obviously that's changed quite a bit for us.
Yeah, and so Sally, I'm gonna keep on with you, and then Kalen, I'll move on to you. So Sally, and we hear this so much, right? I mean, we've seen restaurants have to switch to doing takeout, and they've never done it before. We see co-working spaces having to convert to digital memberships, right? And so you have a perfect example of a physical location is what drew people in that atmosphere within that physical location. So tell me a little bit about some of the decisions that you've made. Well, first, what you're doing now, right? And then some of the decisions that went into transitioning that, both technically and emotionally, because that's a big thing to do.
Yeah, no, things have changed quite a bit for us. And it was actually, so we wanted to stay open. We had members begging us to stay open, don't close, my job is shut down, I'm on spring break, whatever it may be, this is my one outlet. And we stayed open really until, all of a sudden it was unethical to do so. So it was right before that, our governor actually told us that we couldn't stay open, but I think it was the 15th, exactly 1 month ago. So it was a Monday. We sent out an email to our whole community saying, hey, we are shutting down. And I think in the span of 3 hours, we had our first live class. So it was a very quick turnaround. We just sort of decided, this is an opportunity to show who we are as a business. And we wanted to make it clear we would be nothing without our instructors. Our instructors are the most valuable people to us. And so we said, hey, you guys are the best. We are committed to you and we're going to keep paying you throughout this whole mess. So that was sort of step one. And step two was, how do we reach our community and still give them, what they come to us every week for. So we had our first live stream class. We've learned a lot since then. It's changed probably, 5 or 6 times since then. But we just gave it a shot and it wasn't perfect. And we have committed to giving out all free live stream classes. So it does give us some freedom to say, we know this isn't perfect and this is the best we can do at the time, given our resources. And it's been amazing to see the response we've gotten and the support we've gotten, and people who want to keep their memberships alive just to support us, just to help pay instructors. So there are so many things that came out of it. First, things that we're doing that we never thought we would ever do. And then secondly, just the support and the response and all of that has just been amazing and been a surprise, and just been everything as we sort of continue to learn.
I love the fact that some of the points that you brought up, and I want to welcome any new guests that have joined us. We're talking right now with Sally and our other guest, Kalen, about creative pivoting, about giving yourself permission to change in this recent new environment, and some of the best practices and decisions that go into that. Sally, I want to continue a little bit more with you, and then Kalen, I'll come back to you. But I love some of the things that you said in terms of looking at the opportunity involved with it. Like instead of it being something that was restrictive, you made it something open, and you really went to solve a problem. And then this other element of it's okay to have it not be perfect, right? And so I guess one question I want to ask about that is that you mentioned that your classes are free right now. So if this continues, have you thought about monetizing it, and how are you going to monetize it as you journey through perfecting this new process?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've had people keep, some people are donating, some people say, why aren't you charging? And for me, I just wanted to provide something to the greater community at a time when maybe they need to smile and shake their booty for 50 minutes and like let the stress of everything else in their life go away. So I love being the point of joy in people's days. But there has been so much opportunity, on the flip side of this coin. We've had people tuning into our live stream classes that we would never be able to reach. We have people watching from Hawaii, from New Zealand. Some people are saying, I'm halfway around the world. Like, can you record this class and can we watch it when it's daytime over here? So I think the opportunity piece, we've grown our community immensely in the past month, just because people are so excited to be able to try something new. Maybe a friend sent it to them. And we had many requests already to say, hey, will you keep streaming after your studio reopens? So that's something, again, we never thought we would do, live streaming classes, but it's something we're sort of perfecting now to get in place to figure out how to give people who can't come to our studio physically the opportunity and figure out how to monetize that. And yeah, we sort of have the tools in place. We just need to switch to a new model when we're ready to do so.
I really want to congratulate you on jumping into that and seeing that opportunity and embracing it, and also really attacking it with such a positive focus to bring joy. I think it's missions like that and perspective that really emboldens growth, right? And opportunity.
Yeah, no, it sort of surprised me as well. And we have been open for 9 months or so and sort of got into our routine, did what we did well. And it makes me feel like there's just so much creativity that goes into it that you sort of forget once you figure out what works for you. And that piece I want to continue and say, just because we do this well and we make money doing it and people like it doesn't mean that's all we have to do, and we can't continue to innovate as we keep growing and get older as a business.
Such great advice, really great advice. Sally, I'm going to come back to you, but I want to turn to Kalen, because some of the things that Sally just touched on right now. Kalen, you're a photographer, so there is at times you can set distance between you and the person you're photographing, or you don't always have to photograph a person. But I think it's really interesting some of the choices that you have made recently with your photography. And can you tell me about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that first weekend when COVID hit, going back to, it must have been the 15th, I had a wedding scheduled that following weekend, a winter wedding, and all of a sudden it was down to 50 people and then 10 people and then called off. And so that's when I had this click of, this might not be going as planned and as expected. And sure enough, 7 of my weddings to this day have either been canceled or postponed. So I used that time initially to just think creatively and work on my website and write some blogs. And I wrote love letters to clients, checking in on them, and just thought it was a good way to build that personal connection and touch in a time that's really virtual. But then, like I said, Denver's so important to me, and to document Denver and share that with my community was just a fun passion project that I had. I had no intention of sharing it anywhere other than my Facebook page. And so I just went out in my car, stayed in my car, took photos of Denver. This was before the lockdown, and shared those with the community. And that since has been published, which is so exciting. And I had no intention or expectation of that happening. And that has, of course, created opportunity and exposure that I never expected, and grown my community as well. So I think just doing it's another reminder of doing what you're passionate about and following, sounds cheesy, but following your heart and your passion projects can actually lead to really good business, and come with, just have a bigger impact because your passion and heart's behind it. So it's been amazing. I definitely had to pivot my entire business, whether the weddings have been postponed. I had a maternity shoot, and she's like, well, now what? I'm gonna have this baby and not have photos of my pregnant belly. So I think just getting really creative. I've seen some photographers guiding their clients to take selfies, which I just think is so beautiful, teaching them about lighting and angles. And then I've also just really been focused on the elopements and smaller gatherings. And I'd already preferred to do those. And my entire business has pivoted and shifted into that arena. And so I'm even trying to partner with some local businesses right now, local florists and a local entrepreneur that I work with who does vegan soul food. And the goal would be to support intimate weddings with this package of some supporting us local businesses, but also having a package affordable deal for really small intimate weddings or elopements. So it's created all this opportunity that I never even imagined going into this.
You know what you bring up, congratulations, by the way. Both of you have made such interesting choices and really listening to your community, which I think is what I see as one of the first steps, right? What is needed, what problem needs to be solved, what is right there at the tips of your fingertips. And Kalen, what I think some of the things that you're stepping on as well as what Sally did is that those intimate gatherings that you enjoy doing, I wonder if moving in the future that's going to become more popular, right? I mean, they are starting to say that the situation we're in now, there's going to be a new normal. Have you, so in looking at that, Kalen, are you taking this opportunity to sort of build out your business plan or your lean canvas model, looking further ahead?
Yes, that's a really good question. I'm keeping tallies on this baby boom that's going to happen.
Right.
I think that'll have a really dramatic effect on photography businesses. So I'm actually preparing and growing out that side of my business as we speak, on the website and I'll make it public. But there's absolutely going to be a baby boom. So I think it's also a time to really pause and reflect and think forward, and plan for the future in a way that we might not normally do because we'd be so caught up in the day-to-day shoots and work and editing. And I think this has been a really interesting way to have this futuristic approach that I don't think I would have. So yeah, that's something else I'm preparing for right now.
That's so smart. You know, even working with the organization with Startup Space, that Kalen, I know you know very well. There are so many things that we've been looking at. I mean, in a lot of ways, you know, we are a virtual community, and we support a virtual presence and you know, connect people to resources. That right now we've really noticed that this is kind of when our business was meant to be, and just seeing. Watching all of these conversations and inspired by so many entrepreneurs such as yourself that are making these decisions. Sally, I want to turn to you, and Kalen talked about her sort of future planning. You kind of touched on that when you were saying that you're kind of preparing yourself for more online elements, and you're building an audience out even beyond sort of the boundaries of Denver, right? You're moving even further. What does that look like to you? And do you think when you when you can reopen your physical space, is this going to be a sort of monetary angle that you're going to continue growing?
I don't have all the answers at the moment, but I would say it's highly likely. We are definitely counting down the days until we can open our space, because that's sort of our bread and butter. And we'll definitely, go back to our live classes, in-person classes here in Denver. But I think having sort of an offshoot and a separate live streaming, maybe they join the same classes, but can do it from halfway around the world, to keep these people that have joined our community in the meantime with our live streaming classes. That I think it is highly likely that we'll sort of have these two segments, to have something brand new that we probably would have never done if we hadn't, given the current global process.
Excellent. So we want to switch the conversation a little bit, because I'm talking to two people who have actively made the decision, which is fantastic. And I think that there are a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners that have a really hard time giving themselves permission to pivot or make a change, right? I've heard about some businesses, there are others that don't, but I want to go through some of the challenges that might be, and sort of talk through what would be some things that you would say to an entrepreneur or business owner to encourage them, or ways to look at it. I do hear about locally where I am, which is in Minnesota, I have heard about some local distilleries that are making rubbing alcohol. I've heard about some costume shops that are making masks, so those things that are very immediate to now, and hopefully their businesses will go back to what they were before. So this is a temporary pause where they're adding something in. So that's one way to pivot, right? Look at an immediate, what could you do? But some of these other long-term ones that you're noticing, Kalen, I'm going to switch to you, since you do actively also support small businesses so much through the Commons in Denver. What are some of the things that you would say, or some of the things that went through your mind when you were allowing yourself to look at these different routes?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think right now there's this culture of change and leniency in a way that we have never had before, at least in my lifetime. And I think people are expecting others to make mistakes right now. We're all kind of learning this new normal together. And so for me, it's like I've been testing so many different avenues to see what works. And like Sally was alluding to as well, like it's free right now because they're still trying, they were trying to figure it out and give it a new shot. So I think just trying it, just taking that risk and trying, like just going for it, I think there should be nothing, like perfection shouldn't hold you back right now, because it's a pretty messy time. And to be comfortable in that messy, I think is the only way we're going to move forward. In New Zealand, there's this term called muck it up, like a muck it up mentality. It's just like, get your feet dirty, get your hands dirty, and just do it. Because that's the only way you're going to know if it's going to work out or not. So, that's what I've been doing, and just trying so many different avenues in my business. I won't have the capacity to do all of them, and that's not my goal. I'd like to focus, but right now it's seeing what's working, what's catching on. Some other photographer friends are leading classes online. Someone asked me to do that with them, so I might give it a shot and see how it goes. But I think it's just trial and error. Just do it.
Yeah, I love that. Muck it up and trial and error. Muck it up. I'm going to keep that. I come from a theater background, and I think there's a lot of that. The experimentation, the improv, right? Throwing something out there, seeing how it bounces back and reacts. And I do appreciate so much. Now in all these different Zoom conversations that I'm in and so on, sort of the levity and humanity that's happening in them. You'll periodically see children peer over in the side looking in, and there's this we're seeing this insight into people's homes, and sort of, so I really appreciate the humanity that's coming out of this journey that we're all in. Sally, I want to turn to you with the muck it up. So you alluded to that in some of the beginning things. Tell me about, what would you say to somebody, especially somebody who has a physical space, and might not think of doing something online, like what permissions would you give them, or suggestions would you give them?
Yeah, I love the muck it up. We've had so many things that have flopped. You know, we figured out what works, but we've also tried things, for example, like a noon mini dance party that we did every day, and we gave it a shot for a week or two, realized it didn't work, and kept moving. I think, you know, with the physical space and oftentimes with a product or with a service, you get so focused on, this is what I do, you know, this has to stay the same, and you sort of spend so much energy trying to push everything else around you to keep that perfect. But I think something that one of the Commons community members, Olivia Omega, says so well is that you really think about your customer as you're in a relationship with them, which you are all the time. And both that they'll give you any permission you need to figure it out, and that, you know, figure out what they need, serve them. And if you think about, you know, putting a face on your service or product, it's a whole lot easier to adapt, because obviously their world has changed drastically, and it's a lot more fun when you're, you know, not just head down on this product that I do really well. You're thinking about, you know, what does this person in my life need, and how can I serve them, and what's the message I can give them to provide comfort, or to provide, you know, happiness, or whatever they might need in this moment. It might not be your core bread and butter of what you do in the business, but if you can help them out in this time, then go for it.
Excellent. I love that relationship with your customer. Everything is so relational, and it's challenging to do that on a screen, right? And so that to be able to put that face on the customer, like you said, and to still create that relation, to be able to reach through the camera and connect is a challenging thing. And I think it's by putting a face to that person and building that relationship, I think is so great. That's such great advice from both of you. Such fabulous advice. I know that right now we've talked about the really positive things, right? The looking at it, giving some good advice and stuff. But I guess I think it's also important to touch on the things that have been challenging, right? And that, and how did you sort of move around those? So Kalen, I want to turn to you and ask you, like, what are some of so that we know that it's not all been roses the whole time, what are some of the bumps that you've run into, and how did you move through that?
Yeah, it's definitely been very challenging. I'm so fortunate to be working not 100% as a full-time photographer, but also at the Commons, because I just feel for all these small business owners. I mean, it just puts a dagger in my heart. I mean, even just losing the 7 weddings, a few of them were postponed, but I gave the deposits back, you know, and I think that's just a human touch of no one's to blame. Let's just return that deposit. And so I think, I mean, that of course did not feel good. And I was expecting and had planned for that revenue from the 7 weddings. And so that was definitely a huge blow. But you just move forward, and like I said, we're all in this together, and so it's really, really hard, but I think it's also time to think creatively and lean on others to support you. And I think it's a give and take. Like I connected, this is another positive spin, but I connected with a photographer because of this on Instagram or on some platform, and she's like, she had just picked up film photography and wanted to share it with somebody. She had just gotten a new camera, and she was like, I'll give this to someone who wants to learn film right now. And we've just been texting every day and chatting about it. And I've picked up my film camera, and we're kind of creating together virtually. And it's just this amazing connection that normally wouldn't have happened, like a film pen pal kind of mentor buddy. And so, and she's struggling as much as I am, and as much, I mean, in the incredible photographer community in Denver, it's really strong and really tight knit, especially in the Denver Photo Buddies network. And I just feel for them, but we're all pivoting together, and it's incredibly collaborative, because most of the people in that group are doing it full time and really, really struggling. So we're brainstorming ideas on how we can work together and also pivot our businesses entirely. So people are open and collaborative and not competing, which I think is a really beautiful thing during these times.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sally, do you have anything to add to that thought?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a tough time for our business. I would, April will probably have about 25% of the revenue that we did even in March, because most of, all of our revenue for the most part is coming for people paying for these in-person classes. It has been very tough. We're still paying rent. We're still paying our instructors. We've been able to cut down some of, just gotten really lean in what are our expenses. But if, honestly, if this were a couple months after we had opened, we probably wouldn't make it beyond this. And I'm feeling just very lucky that we did have some cushion in the bank account, as opposed to, being so scrappy at the beginning, that we sort of did have a rainy day fund that would allow for, if for whatever reason, obviously I did not foresee this happening, but if anything turned south for a period of time. So we're just making it work, and thankful and hoping that this will not continue forever and we can get back to what we do best. But it's been tough, and I have shocked myself to see, all the opportunity in this. So that's sort of the flip side. And in that part, I feel it's changed everything. And I think having everything shaken up is a good thing, and it leads to innovation. And that part I'm grateful for, because I would have never expected that.
I love that leads to innovation. It's the opportunity, but it is, that the points that I take from both of you is that preparing in it, like you were prepared, Sally. I mean, you had, that making those careful financial decisions and then getting real lean. The idea of collaboration, Kalen, that you talked about, are such important things to continue to consider as we move forward with this, not knowing how long it will be, to sort of keep those avenues open, to continue to look for the opportunity, and to continue to listen and remain open to what others are saying. Have either of you looked into, or I'm just curious as we're asking business owners and entrepreneurs, any of the funding that's out through local or federal? Have you investigated into that? Have you noticed barriers with that? What has your experience been so far in that arena, and what advice do you have with that? Kalen, why don't I start with you with that?
Well, I'm kind of in a different position since I'm sending out that information and connecting entrepreneurs with those resources. I think at first the biggest barrier was so much information and just feeling absolutely bombarded. And even as the connector trying to bring these resources to the entrepreneurial community, I needed time to synthesize everything and put it in a document and talk about the barriers of each one of them, or the requirements to even make you eligible. And so we outlined that. We actually have a one-page document that's really useful that we can share with you guys if that's of interest. But I haven't personally applied. My mom and I run an Airbnb, and that's also taken a huge hit, as you can imagine. And so I'm working with my mom to apply for that one right now. But
Great.
I'm sure Sally, you have more personal info on this.
Yeah, we have applied for a bunch of things. I think have submitted a total of 4 applications for various loans, grants, etc., including some federal funding through the PPP program. There's some city funding in the city of Denver as well. And then just there are a couple of businesses like Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, who's doing, I think it's $5 million that she's giving out in funding and $5,000 grants. So that's what she started Spanx with. And she's just giving it back. So there are a couple other programs that are just, private grants that we've applied for. And my experience, the applications are pretty straightforward, I would say, for the most part, because I think just the volume, things have to be pretty concise, short and sweet, because they're going through so many applications, and I just take it day by day. We're still waiting to hear, and I'm not expecting anything. We'll see what comes out of this. But it's been just a little bit crazy, and I bank with Wells Fargo, and then they said they were postponing the PPP program. So I opened up with a new bank, applied with them, and the day after Wells Fargo says, hey, we're opening back up this program. So it just requires a ton of patience and, a little bit of humor to go around with this, because it would drive you crazy otherwise.
Yeah, we've heard that pretty much across the board. I hear that in Minnesota. We're starting to hear people who are accepted and people who are denied, and there doesn't seem to be a huge defining factor as to why. So I commend both of you on the routes that you're taking. I think it's such a value to hear different perspectives, the ones that are applying and the ones that are still, there's challenges, Kalen, especially for contractors and sole proprietors. There's much more paperwork often with that. So I think that what I have heard is sort of an overall practice, and please interrupt me if you think I'm wrong, but you just need to try, right? Just need to apply, and that even that $1,000 will add up, or 5,000, or whatever amount is what I've pretty much been hearing, that even if you are continuing to bring in some income, you are continuing, we don't know how long this will go on, and that we just sort of need to get our toes in the water, and even practicing what it is to fill out those applications can be helpful. Well, I want to start wrapping up this conversation. It's been so amazing to talk to both of you about this. I think that you've made some just amazing strides with your businesses. You've really looked at it in such an innovative, entrepreneurial, and opportunity way, but not in an opportunistic way is what I'm trying to say. You've really just looked at it from such a pure way to help your community and others that are involved in that. And I think that that's often a key factor with success, is when you do it in that perspective. But I want to go back to both of you. I want you to be able to share your websites and just any closing words that you have before I do a closing. So I'll move to Kalen. I'll move to you first.
Awesome. Thanks, Lily. I would say for me, it's just reassured me that innovation is born in times of disruption, and it's not necessarily a negative thing. Of course, it comes with a lot of horrible things, hardships, and businesses going under, and people, of course, struggling right now. So not to dismiss that, but there is a lot of opportunity. And I mean, even with the incredible budget cuts and cutting expenses and really thinking about, do I really need this inside and outside of the business? It's just made me realize that a lot of the things that we're buying are pretty superfluous, and maybe we don't need them to be happy, and that being home and being safe and being with your loved ones is what really matters. So I think that's been a really good reminder, just to slow down and take time to have dinner with my partner, and have dinner at home, and not be rushing to a happy hour and rushing to events. So I'd say that's my biggest takeaway from all of this, is really enjoying the little things and slowing down. and I hope that continues on. So that's really important to me. And then my website is kalenjesse.com. So we can send that out to everyone.
Excellent. We will. Thank you, Kalen. Sally.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you said, Kalen. I just have so much faith in humanity that I think we will come out of this on top. I just think people are way too creative and innovative, you know, for this to just be a doomsday. There's, you know, that life will never, maybe it will never be the same, but not for the worse. You know, it's not the end of life as we know it. So I just think to sort of continue that faith in people and not to let the fear get the best of you. And yeah, my website is block21fitness.com. And if anyone is interested in joining in our free live streaming classes, we do have those every day during the week at 5:30 p.m. Mountain time and on the weekends at 10 a.m. And we host those on Twitch TV, but there's a link on our website. So yeah, come get booty shaking in your living room with us.
I love it. I want to thank both of you so much for your for your time, first of all, and for sharing your stories. I think that you know, the one of the best ways that all of us can get through this time is that sharing of stories and that sharing of experience. I learn best by hearing from other people, and this is absolutely the type of uplifting conversation I needed to have in my period of time and today. So I want to thank you for your time. I want to tell individuals to visit startupspace.us and download Startup Space for access to resources during this time, for access to information about the loans that are out there, to information about other really fantastic offerings by businesses such as Sally's that are happening during this time, where they're offering either free or low fee programming to be able to move through this period of time, and to please, in whatever way you can as community members, support each other and support these entrepreneurs. Join Sally's Block Fitness from either Detroit or Minnesota or Denver itself, and make sure to visit and look at Kalen's photography of Denver during this time. And then, of course, if you have small gatherings moving forward, to reach out to her. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. Please visit startupspace.us to download Startup Space and have access to resources, events, and other information during the COVID crisis and beyond, and to restart your business. Thank you, Kalen and Sally, for all of your fantastic advice. And please, everyone, stay healthy and continue to innovate and disrupt.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Billy.